Buenas a todos, chavales. Otro viernes más con el Star Citizen Live. Y en este caso, pues, dice pintando planetas. Buenas Pito, buenas Chinarro. Y dentro asunto. Uh, segundito.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Star Citizen Live Gamedev.
A ver, hacemos así, hacemos así. Listo.
Painting Planets. I'm your host, Jared Huckabee. And joining us on the show this week is senior environment artist from our Frankfurt studio, Mr. Patrick Gladys. Patrick, how you doing?
All good, man. Thanks for having me, dude.
We,
Me tienen ahí un desarrollador senior, que es Patrick, del artista de entorno. Y, y bueno, pues vamos a ello.
yeah, we have we noticed during our audio test, we've got this little ASMR thing going on. Should we just do this entire show in ASMR?
W-
Hello.
If our community is into listening
No.
to me doing ASMR,
We'll save that. We'll save that for when Paul Jones and Luke Presley do a show together. So if you've never seen Star Citizen Live before, it's our Friday broadcast. We have a couple different formats. Sometimes we do a big roundtable Q&A. Sometimes we do a game dev, which is where we take a period of time to sit with an artist or a designer or whomever and see a little bit of their craft, the little bit of process that goes into their work on a daily basis, and that's what we're doing here today. So Patrick, without further ado, we're just going to jump right into this. You take the wheel. I'm going to jump in the passenger seat and play with the radio. What are we doing today?
Bueno, pues está diciendo que para aquellos que no hayan visto los ejercicios del live antes, que de vez en cuando pues eh, invitan a un desarrollador o a un diseñador para explicar un poco cómo es el proceso de creación de Star Citizen. Y en este caso pues le ha dicho directamente a Patrick que él simplemente lleva las riendas del asunto y que Discolando va a estar como pasajero y que le dé al asunto.
what we will do today is take a look at a couple Planetech V4 features. We have talked about them in the past already, also on this show, when Michelle and Sebastian were on last time, or some like a while back, right? But this time we're focusing more on the actual tools and the hands-on approach, actually showing off what is it like using the tools, how fast are they, how flexible can we change our content and make new planets if we like to.
Están diciendo que en esta sesión nos van a enseñar un poco de cómo se utilizan las herramientas de la tecnología V4 y cuáles, bueno, cómo de útiles son, la eficiencia que tienen las herramientas y demás.
Sure. Well, why don't you share your screen and we'll get going.
All right, cool. Screen 1. Get rid of you, Jared. Bye.
Bye.
All right, cool. All right. So what we have here is basically Daymar. But for all the people who know what Daymar looks like, this is not really like the Daymar that people can play and go to right now, since I've already changed the data that's basically driving how all this texture information looks like. And we will go through all of that and explain what it is all about and how we modify these things and how it's constructed. So hopefully by the end of the hour, people will have a much better understanding and idea of how we approach this on V4.
Están diciendo de que lo que tenemos aquí es Daymar, pero no es el Daymar que podemos, por el que podemos volar ahora mismo, podemos ver en el verso, sino que es un Daymar que han modificado y que nos van a explicar, pues a través de lo que vemos aquí, de esta luna, pues un acercamiento a lo que es la tecnología V4 a través de lo que estamos viendo.
First, let's check out the color information of this planet. All right. So that we're just looking at color. This is the only thing that's really interesting to us right now. And so what is different from V3 to V4? One of the big changes is the way our entire content is put together.
Dice que aquí nos están hablando del color, en este caso los colores solamente, y cuál es la diferencia entre el V3 y el V4. Y el V3 y el V4, tecnología planetaria, es de cómo ponen todo el contenido junto, ¿no? Cómo agrupan el contenido.
So what I mean by that is the color that you see from orbit, the color that you see close up, and then where are all our objects scattering groups and how are they laid out, and then what about the ground materials and such, and how are they distributed, right? So all these different layers of content and how they are all constructed and put together has changed. I think that
Claro, está comentando de que las cosas que han cambiado, ¿no? De cómo vemos lo que es el astro desde fuera, cómo nos vamos acercando al astro, cómo nos vamos aproximando, y cómo se aproximan y cómo se muestran los objetos que hay en la superficie planetaria, incluso el terreno, distintamente a lo que decía la V3.
that's the most drastic change when it comes
Que es
from
el cambio
V3
más
to
drástico.
V4, but it is also the reason why the process is so much faster, because before all of these different things were basically individual files, and everything was basically quite disconnected from one another. But now with V4, the new approach is that we have base data that everything, like basically two sets of data that we will also discuss in a bit, that everything is based on. So we take a very simple texture basically and have it drive everything that you see on the planet, except for stuff like locations and outposts, since they're not really belonging to.
Claro, dice que una de las cuestiones por la que el V4 es más rápida que el V3 es que según parece, el V3 todas las diferentes capas que había, los diferentes objetos y demás, eran individuales y ahora como que forman todo parte de una capa. Entonces, como que extienden esa capa, por así decirlo, basado en dos fuentes de bases de datos, según lo que comenta, y excluyendo solamente lo que serían los outputs. Así que el proceso se acelera bastante de la creación de astros.
The nature of the planet, or the organic part of the planet,
Right.
since they're all man-made, right?
Yeah, the POIs are added afterwards by the level designers and stuff.
Exactly. So if I jump back to the planet view here, and let's maybe first check out the painting tools. So I can select our painting tool here.
Que dice que lo que es toda la cuestión orgánica del planeta sería pues parte de lo que nos está diciendo, de un conjunto, no antes, que era todo partes individuales, lo cual acelera bastante el proceso.
So if I just now randomly choose, for example, white, and increase the brush radius, I can just click into the planet once, and you see that the color is applied.
Now, what's determining the area that you're affecting? I mean, obviously, you're moving your mouse, and it's selecting different areas. We can see what areas you're selecting in the blue. But how is it determining what you're hitting, what you're not hitting?
Exactly. So the thing I just talked about, which is that very simple texture that drives everything, is basically what is being highlighted here, and it's different portions of that texture. We can take a look at it right now if you want to. So, but before I do that, I can basically just go through and stroke in here one more time, so you can see that, you know, changes can be done quite easily and very fast.
Nos está comentando de que con esa zona que tiene marcada de color azul es como una brocha, y entonces puede determinar el grado de brocha que quiere, el grosor de brocha, por así decirlo. y que puede colorear de blanco, en este caso, las partes que quiera, ¿no? Entonces, que es un proceso bastante más rápido. Lo que le está preguntando Discolando es cómo determina esa zona, cómo se determina esa zona azul que estamos viendo.
But it's good to take a look at the texture now. So now we're in a tool called Substance Designer, where we generate most of our content when it comes to ground materials, textures, and so on. It is entirely procedural, so you see like there are these large chains of operations going on, starting from noises, and then we start modifying them and stuff like that without going into too much detail here. But at some point, when we start with a simple noise like this one, which is a Perlin noise, when we go all the way to the right, where it basically shows the end result, because the entire graph is calculated from left to right? So this part here is the result of it. So we end up at something like this.
Bueno, lo que nos habían enseñado es que que esto ya lo nos enseñaron la vez anterior, es que ahora mismo se hace de forma proceduralmente mediante este sistema de esquemas que se van uniendo, ¿no? Y es que digamos que primero hacen lo que serían las bases, es decir, de qué tipo de terreno quieren, cuánto ruido quieren que tenga, ¿no? El ruido se basa pues en plan este tipo de cositas, de manchas y tal y que hay. Y aquí vemos blend que significa mezcla en inglés. Entonces este sería el resultado final. Entonces a medida que van modificando lo que es las partes de izquierda, las partes de la izquierda de lo que es esta zona, pues aquí pueden ver inmediatamente el resultado. De izquierda a derecha, pues las modificaciones se van viendo a la derecha.
Or rather, something like this, right? And so what are we looking at here? I have talked about one texture, but we're clearly seeing two things. And what are these two? If I visualize it like this, so basically I just took that grayscale information from here and applied a little color to it to make it a little more obvious what this is all about. What we're looking at is the temperature information of our planet.
Ok. Lo que nos están diciendo es que aparte de que, bueno, en este esquema, aparte de lo que son las texturas y cómo quieren que sea el planeta, acordaros de que decían de que el coloreado y demás también influía lo que era la humedad y la temperatura. Entonces ha dicho que ha exagerado lo que es este cacho de aquí para que veamos la información para que podamos apreciar mejor la información que se muestra, y esto sería lo que es el clima, la temperatura del planeta. Buenas, Cartaginés.
And to further visualize that, I can actually have it view on my sphere here. So let's say this is our planet. I'm trying to squeeze the windows that I usually have on two screens onto one screen. All right, but as you can see here, the texture, if I chose the grayscale version of it, right, you can see that the dark values of the texture are at the top and bottom of the sphere, which is basically our north and south pole.
Claro, está diciendo que aquí podemos ver el ejemplo de cómo sería esa textura en lo que es el astro en sí. Y vemos como pues esto sería la zona más cálida, y estas zonas oscuras de aquí serían el norte y los polos norte y sur del astro.
And around the equator, also if I view this texture here, you can see that here, the top and the equator here, this correlates, right? Because it's mapped on the sphere right now. So around the equator, we have the brightest values, which means the temperature there is greater than it is around the north or south pole, right? Mm-hmm. So we have kind of a representation of what the temperature is like on our planet, and also these deformations and such, because you don't want it to be simple. There are all kinds of things going on a planet, like mountains and oceans, and all of these things can influence how the temperature can behave on the planet.
Claro, está diciendo de que aquí vemos pues efectivamente como la zona más brillante que nos mostró antes, que sería esta parte de aquí, cuando estaba en blanco y negro, era zona que tenía pues más grados que lo que serían los polos. Y nos comenta también que estas zonas de aquí que tienen estas formas y demás, porque no quieren que sea simple, sino que cosas como, pues hay un montón de cosas sucediendo en un astro, ¿no? Como pues montañas, mares y demás, que eso todo puede afectar a lo que es la temperatura del planeta.
For example, if you go up a mountain, right, you would expect the temperature to drop gradually as you're moving upwards. So that was the top one, right? Simple, temperature. Let's look at the bottom one, which is our humidity.
Claro, dice que lo que es la parte de arriba sería lo que es la parte simple de la temperatura. Entonces, si tenemos montañas, esperamos que digamos, la temperatura influya de cierta manera. Entonces, nos va a hablar de la segunda parte, que esto sería la humedad.
The humidity and the temperature are basically combined in the end and saved out as one texture. But that one texture basically combines the data set, these two textures, so the information of our temperature and humidity. So I can also visualize that on our sphere here. And you can see that the humidity isn't simply a gradient going from the North Pole to the equator, and then it has a lot more breakup to it. There's a lot more variation going on.
Claro, está diciéndonos que la humedad no simplemente es como la parte de la temperatura, sino que tiene muchísima más variedad y muchas más cosas sucediendo en el caso de la humedad.
The humidity is also usually influenced by things like the ocean and mountains and such. We could also, basically these textures are completely artist driven. Like we can create whatever we like. If I decided to, let's say, if I decided to swirl up that texture, that would actually be my humidity. So I'm entirely free to do that. Like nothing stops me from doing that, except for maybe our art director who would really dislike me for doing that.
Dice que lo que es en el caso de la humedad, a diferencia de lo que es la temperatura, esto es enteramente de diseño de artista, ¿no? El artista puede hacer lo que quiera, incluso pues vemos aquí cómo está haciendo este huracán raro, que dice que bueno, que en este caso pues es una muestra para enseñarnos que pueden hacer lo que quieran en esta sección, pero que su director de arte no estaría muy contento con este resultado, ¿no?
So yeah, but we can do anything, right? So that there's no limits, but we try to at least have it be based on some physical phenomena, like some phenomenon in weather and how mountains influence these two, and as I already said, oceans and maybe wind currents and all of that stuff. So we try to work in as much of that information into these two, and the more precise it is, the better. But also we have to kind of watch out and look for specific shapes that are in there, because if we go back to the editor and pick our painting tool again, these shapes are precisely what the painting tool will start picking up on. So if there was no variety in this texture, I couldn't get these interesting shapes that you see on the planet or moon.
Claro, estás diciendo de que a la hora de, efectivamente, o sea, a la hora de seleccionar esas zonas azules, que son esas formas interesantes que dice, eso se obtiene de lo que vimos antes, de esa forma de hacer lo que es la humedad, y que siempre tratan de cuadrar esas zonas, como vemos aquí oscuras, ¿no? Que las veíamos antes en blanco y negro, que tengan coincidencia, pues bien con montañas, con ríos, o sea, que tengan sentido según la topografía del planeta. Tratan de aproximarlas lo máximo posible. Y ahí de esa manera pues pueden obtener esa forma de brocha, ¿no? Con esas formas interesantes que de otra manera no se podrían lograr. Bueno,
Right
Javicho.
here. Right. So this texture gets combined and exported, and then it looks a little funky. It looks like this. So, but that doesn't really matter. In the end, it's really the individual channels that the textures made of that matter to us. So,
Claro, dice que al final esas dos texturas salen en una combinación que nos acaban de enseñar antes, pero que realmente que eso no es lo que importa para ellos. Supongo que a lo que se referiría antes de que utilizan dos bases de datos para dibujar los planetas, pues era precisamente lo que era la humedad y la temperatura, que es con lo que realmente ellos trabajan para definir la forma de los astros.
why can I paint on the planet like this? How does the how are the textures combined and how can I paint on them. So you see that the highlight is around the equator now, and it's because around the equator I have a specific humidity value which is different from another spot on the planet.
Claro, dice por qué se muestran ese tipo de. ¿Por qué se muestra ese tipo de brocha de esa manera, en azul? Dice pues que claro, que él cuando hace clic en lo que es la zona del ecuador, se muestran unos valores de humedad distintos a los que hay en otro área.
Let's say, that is actually a good one. We have this brighter area and this darker area here, right? And I can totally, if I hover above it, you can clearly see that my highlight changes. That means
Claro, y vemos como hay una zona que tiene una humedad distinta, y entonces vemos cómo realmente se adapta lo que es el pincel a las zonas de humedad en común, ¿no?
same data, this would all be white or dark, or bright sand or dark sand. And I can further visualize that by simply picking the planet and then showing you here is the humidity. So for example, here where we get brighter values, it's very humid. And then here in the darker areas, it's very dry.
Claro, lo que nos está mostrando efectivamente es que aquí en la zona oscura de esta versión de visión, ¿no? De vista, pues con la zona oscura sería humedad y esto sería zona más seca.
If I had to compare that to, let's say, Earth, where you have the same temperature, let's look at the temperature again, because you can totally see that we have mostly brighter values here in the temperature, which means there's a very similar temperature in this region, but still I get a different look because the humidity differs. So let's say it is hot and dry. You would probably expect a desert, right? But if it was hot and very humid, you would probably expect a jungle. That's very.
Claro, dice que vamos a poner como por ejemplo pensando en la Tierra, ¿no? Pues en el planeta Tierra, pues claro que a pesar de tener los mismos valores de temperatura en lo que es la zona del Ecuador, que variando la humedad, pues si tú tienes una zona cálida, pero esa zona cálida es seca a mayores, pues entonces tendrás una zona desértica. Pero si es una zona cálida y una zona húmeda, podrás esperar una jungla. ¿Qué ganas tengo de los planetas de jungla?
Very lush, and the humidity would be super high if you entered the jungle. So this is how we can control and have variety, even though we are in the same region when it comes to the temperature, right? If I hover just around the equator.
Claro, de esa manera es la manera en la que pueden controlar que a pesar de estar en una misma zona de temperatura, variando la humedad, pueden variar también el bioma.
This area individually from this area, right?
Because it's taking a measurement between the temperature and the humidity.
Exactly, because both data sets of temperature and humidity are working together at all times. They are being basically blended together, and they work at the same time, not individually. So you're using both at the same time when you paint.
What was that gradient square we were looking at earlier?
Oh, that gradient square, if I find it on the planet here.
It was right around there. There.
Yeah. It is basically just the same data that is spread over the entire planet. If I just turn on humidity again, it's basically just the entire data range from the dark values to the bright values from 0 to 255. And it's basically just condensed into a square. That's purely an artist kind of a workflow that we came up with in order to, depending on what we do, save ourselves some time and work. Because if, let's say, I paint on this square.
Claro, mira, esto es una cosa interesante que muchas veces en algunas de las lunas, durante los parches, veíamos cubos negros o zonas extrañas, ¿no? Ahí en plan marcadas, en lo que eran los planetas. Y ahora, pues, tiene sentido que pueda ser esto, ¿no? Y nos está comentando de que ellos, lo que le está preguntando y escuchando qué es esto, ¿no? Que se ve aquí en el planeta. Bueno, pues esto es una información condensada de todo lo que es el gradiente, ¿no? La variedad que hay de temperatura y humedad de todo lo que es el astro. Y que utilizan este recuadro condensado para poder a veces trabajar y tomarse su tiempo y agilizar lo que es el proceso general de lo que es la creación del astro en sí. Y la verdad es que mola un huevo esta herramienta, ¿eh?
You can see that the entire planet changes.
Claro, y además veis que podemos ver que cuando toca ahí, que el planeta entero cambia, porque tienen todo condensado. Entonces, claro, eh, aquí se trabaja con dos cosas, como han explicado, lo que sería la temperatura y el valor de la humedad. Entonces, si en ese gráfico que está todo condensado, toda la humedad y, o sea, las zonas que compartan esa humedad y esa temperatura se van a colorear de la misma forma que lo hace en ese recuadro. ¿Veis cómo se ha coloreado todo, no?
As well. So if I want to save some time and be quicker in my workflow, I can simply start filling out this entire range here in this square because it correlates to my entire planet. So we can try that out, right? I still have my white color selected, and I'm gonna tint this top left corner of this square. And now let's take a look at the temperature. Okay, the temperature in the top left corner seems to be cold, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now if I look
Claro, está diciendo de que utilizando esta herramienta, si quieren acelerar mucho su proceso de trabajo, pueden simplemente colorear este área. Nos está explicando que efectivamente aquí vemos, según lo que es la información de temperatura, esto sería la parte fría y esto la parte más cálida. Entonces, si colorean lo que es esta parte de aquí,
look at the humidity, it is
claro, esto sería, o sea, de aquí para abajo, esto es interesante, la verdad. De aquí para abajo sería lo que es el calor y de izquierda a derecha sería la humedad. Entonces está seleccionando las zonas que son muy frías y húmedas.
in that case cold as well. So we have or low, so it's not very humid.
Ah, no, al revés, perdón. La parte de la derecha sería la más húmeda y la parte de la izquierda la menos húmeda. Acordaros de que tienen el sistema, que aquí me he equivocado yo, disculpad. Tienen el sistema de que cuanto más brillante sea, más tiene de. Cuanto más brillante sea, más tiene de, tanto de temperatura como de humedad. En este caso tiene poca temperatura y poca humedad.
And it's very cold. So how does, like, what area on my planet describes very cold and dry areas? If we take a look, you can see that the area that describes these two
Claro, y vemos que el área que coincide con mucho frío y clima seco, pues clima seco y frío, pues es los polos, ¿no? Y algunas zonas montañosas que hay por ahí.
so they automatically get that color applied, right? I could do the same for, let's say, very hot and dry places. So we would go down because it's hot, and then dry would be, no, dry would also be here, right?
Yeah.
So you can already see that the highlight is showing the exact same spot that we're viewing.
Claro, está comentando que la zona, si quieren hacer algo cálido y seco, sería la parte de la izquierda, porque sería sin humedad también y pues sería una zona desértica, ¿no?
Exact same data and spot. So, you know, in the end, I can just go in and start painting on this square, do very, very little areas of modification, very condensed, and just this little spot, but actually I'm influencing large portions of the entire planet and changing them right away.
Claro, dice que puede hacer pequeños cambios ahí, pero que realmente harán grandes cambios a lo que es el global de la superficie del astro.
It's really just an artist workflow to speed things up. We can, for example, go in here and define a couple biomes. Okay, we have the snowy areas in here, or maybe we
En las zonas de
have
nieve,
scorched, whatever, volcanic areas over here, right? I'm
zonas
just visualizing
volcánicas,
right
¿no?
now with two colors.
Está como poniéndolo muy exagerado, en plan de blanco zona nieve y negro zona volcánica, y exagerándolo mucho, ¿no? Para que veamos cómo afecta.
Okay, because it's the hottest and driest here and the coldest and driest here, so that kind of makes sense. If you know a little bit about weather conditions and temperature zones and biome distribution when it comes to planet Earth, you know that around here somewhere, in between the equator and the North Pole, that would be our temperate zone. So that's where most of Europe lies. That's where you have the broadleaf and needle, like pine tree forests and such, right? So I could already go in and kind of block that out and be like, okay, this is where I want these areas to be, right? And then maybe we're moving.
Claro, dice que más o menos por esa zona donde coincide la temperatura moderada y humedad, pues puede empezar a pintar esa zona de bosque, ¿no? Y es lo que lo está marcando con verde de forma exagerada para que veamos cómo se puede trabajar.
And how do I want them to sit and use the data that is provided to me with the textures that I have actually built myself, right? So the painting pass and these two textures, they go together. One determines how the other thing looks or can behave. Of course, I can use the same data and do different kinds of paint passes, right? So technically, and we do that on some of the moons, but the players never notice because we can give them the same data, but give them an entirely different paint pass, so they look different and unrecognizable.
Ok, vamos a hacer una pequeña pausa para comentar algo. Estamos viendo el tema de la humedad y demás, y de cómo afecta esto a los planetas. Ok, pero... ¿realmente pensáis que esto lo podrían aplicar también a lo que es el casco de las naves para que cuando se ensucien por el uso, dependiendo de la zona en la que estén, adquieran un desgaste diferente? Como si estás en una zona muy húmeda, pues que veas algún chorrito de óxido por ahí o algo así raro. O moho, ¿no? O que veas ahí líquen o alguna movida así. O si estás en una zona muy desértica, pues que veas todo polvoriento y todo tal. Eso sería una pasada. Ahí lo dejo.
It's unrecognizable that they are actually using the same data. So, for example, I can just go in here and be like, okay, around my poles, I want a region where it's just ice or something like that, right? And it transitions over all the way to my pine needle forests, and then there come the broadleaf forests or something like that, right? So we can decide quite easily and quite swiftly where things go. So far, so good. Any questions, Jared?
No, I just you asked me, those who know weather and stuff, and I realized I've lived in Southern California my whole life. I don't know anything about weather. All right,
Strictly
so
no. That's all good.
so
Está diciendo Discolando que... Bueno, está preguntando si tiene alguna pregunta, alguna cuestión a Discolando. Dice Discolando que yo no tengo ni puta idea del clima, que yo he vivido toda mi vida en California.
your color coding sections here.
Yep.
How does that translate into what players see? Because obviously they don't see this. It looks like Microsoft Paint color over the moon.
Yeah, right now it does, because I'm basically just blocking in huge areas with different colors, right? But if I just reduce my brush radius, right? And then once I'm once I'm happy with the entire layout of what I'm putting down here, I can then do like a second detail pass of where things might go, right? So I'm again picking the snow or white again, and I'm basically going in and working on transitions or how the snow kind of blends in with all the other areas, right?
Claro, lo que está preguntando Discolando es cómo, bueno, buenísima habla, cómo hacemos, ¿no? Cómo percibimos nosotros los jugadores luego el resultado final. Dice que claro, que efectivamente esto no se perciba así, sino que lo que está haciendo, lo que haría sería primero lo que es esta parte general de delimitar las zonas de interés y luego pues hacer un segundo pase haciendo lo que es la brocha más detallada, menos bruta, ¿no? Y de esa manera pues ir delimitando más cómo, o sea, ir mostrando más cómo se mezclaría lo que es la nieve en las zonas sin nieve y demás, como lo que está haciendo, y así con todo, ¿no? Poco a poco haciéndole pases de detalle, de más detalle de coloreado.
So simply just by clicking, I can determine where these things should go. And then if we go down, I can even go down to a ground level where, oh, this is dark now. Let me go to a spot where it's actually bright. So I can go down to ground level. Maybe let's show it here. Yeah, go to all the way down to a ground level and then basically paint in quite detailed areas.
Claro, dice que además, una vez tiene todo eso, además puede ir a lo que es al nivel de tierra y pintar todo en detalle hasta ese nivel y añadir más detalles de zonas blancas, como está haciendo ahora. La verdad es que es impresionante cómo se ve.
Of snow, where it sits and how it blends into the entire rest, right? As simple as that. So that's actually, we start off like that, but everything that the players see on the planets right now and the entire color information is actually painted down like this by an artist. It's just that if I went back to that spot again, you know, and I wanted to start doing my detail passes, I can, for example, increase the smoothness here and then reduce the opacity of the brush, kind of like you would know it from any other painting tool, right? And then I can start detailing these areas out or take like a contrast again. And
Claro, lo que está haciendo ahora es modificar los valores de opacidad de la brocha y, y ver cómo va más suave la cosa, ¿no? Cómo se mezcla más suave. Y en todo eso pues vemos las transformaciones de modificar los valores que está modificando aquí como puedes hacer en cualquier herramienta de dibujado.
add a bit more detail.
Buenas, Dub Dealer.
And then you can kind of see how it picks up on a lot of the information that is just, that comes with the terrain. And I'm basically filling that information with color. And that's basically how artists go in and work through the entire planet, or that simple square that I have shown you. And until they get something like this, right? So someone actually went in and applied these darker areas of sand and brighter areas of sand. But the important thing to note here is that even if, you know, I'm looking at this specific pit, and this is a very, like, some artists have to wrap their head around this before actually starting to construct planets, because painting this area doesn't mean that I'm just painting this area. So if I would just zoom out now.
Claro, esto es una... por cierto, lo del tema de Rilker de que explote vehículos, deja que los explote, coño. Que así los demás aprendemos qué no se puede hacer después. La cosa, que el tema de las zonas estas, los pozos que está diseñando, ¿no? Dice que una de las cosas complicadas para un artista al principio, bueno, no complicadas, pero sí que tiene que darse cuenta un artista cuando trabaja en este tipo de herramientas, al principio es darse cuenta de que cuando está modificando una zona, no solo está modificando esa zona, sino está afectando a un montón de zonas más, haciendo zoom hacia atrás nos está mostrando, ¿no? Cómo varía todo.
Kind of see that I'm actually affecting a huge portion of the planet just by painting.
Me vais a disculpar un segundito que tengo que ir al servicio, venga ahora. Ya estoy de vuelta, chicos.
Think that one pit, I would change the entire area that's blue right now. Any small, minute modification that I do to the planet is represented everywhere else where at this spot the humidity and temperature data is the same.
Claro, dice que una vez trabaja en eso, que cualquier otra parte del astro que comparta esa humedad y temperatura se ve afectada.
So if I now enable temperature again, this is not very visible, but there are maybe it is visible on stream. There's like very subtle grayscale differences here. Do you
Yeah.
see that, Jared?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Now let's look at the humidity again. Oh,
Claro, dice que lo que es la temperatura, vemos cómo hay ciertas zonas y ahora está mirando la humedad para que veamos cómo se comparten en otras zonas los mismos datos.
but the humidity is a bit more, right? So you can see that the pit here has different humidity values than those protrusions or these hills here, right? So
Acordaros de que un punto importante es que comentaban que la humedad o sea, se veía afectada por lo que era la altitud, las montañas, los ríos y demás.
every single height information that we have on the planet that's basically covering the surface, let's say the mountains and such, these hills or these mountains here, they are all coming with the same set of data as the planet does, and then we blend them together, and that way, which is super different from how V3 worked. Let me demonstrate. So, but people probably already noticed by playing that I can simply go in and let's pick some crazy color like.
Claro, dice que cualquier dato de lo que es montañas y demás igual se ve afectado, lo que es la textura se ve afectado por eso, tanto humedad, clima y altitud, y que es una cosa que probablemente podamos ver ahora, las personas que jugamos, que ya nos hemos dado cuenta, evidentemente, y que ahora dice que va a pillar un color loco, el rosa, para que veamos cómo afecta.
Let's find a good spot, like maybe, yeah, like this, right? And now if I zoom out, all the way from ground to orbit, you can still see it, it's still like, it still represents a pixel on your screen, right? It's still there. And the cool thing about it is there's no blending happening between a planet texture and a close-up ground texture, which is fantastic.
Claro, dice que ahora lo que está haciendo es que nos está enseñando cómo, a pesar de hacer zoom hacia afuera e incluso ver el planeta desde lejos, o el astro desde lejos, vemos como realmente lo que es la visión desde fuera del planeta no hay esa mezcla loca que había antes con la V3 y que se distingue bien lo que es cada sección, cada parte, cada coloreado, ¿no?
Because that way we could provide for details, not just looking as if they would represent what's close up, but they are actually what is there close up as well. There's no blending happening in between this view and an orbit view. It's the exact same data we're looking at. There's no change happening when I fly out of the planet like this, which was fantastic.
I'm really liking that green. I don't know why, but the green is growing on me. You touched on a little bit of elevation earlier. A lot of folks in chat are asking how elevation factors into any of this.
So elevation is not factored in by default, but when I construct these two textures, like the temperature and humidity, right? Do you see these smaller, darker bits here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in this live stream, I actually wanted to focus on these two alone, but we can also take a look at the height information of that planet, right? So now you have another representation as a texture where the mountains are, or where there's an increase in elevation, and where it's actually decreased, or like these darker values are lower, the brighter values are higher, right? So what I could do is simply take that information, give it a bit more contrast like this, so I can actually work with it fully.
Vale, está diciendo de que le están preguntando de cómo afecta la elevación. Lo que nos está enseñando es que, bueno, en este streaming quería centrarse en solo esas dos opciones, de la temperatura y la humedad, pero pueden dar un vistazo rápido a esto. Entonces aquí estaría lo que es la elevación, las zonas oscuras serían las más bajas, las brillantes, las de más altitud. Y aquí pues ha hecho una especie de movida para darle más contraste, para que podamos, para exagerarlo un poco y que podamos apreciarlo mejor.
And now take the temperature and then tell this height information to be subtracted from my temperature. Maybe let's do it like this. All right, like this. I could do that. And then the elevation of the planet would be factored into the temperature of the planet. Simply by me putting in that information from the height data that I get into the temperature data. And now, since I took the mountains and in the temperature, I said, wherever mountains are, give me a darker value, and a darker value means
Colder.
lower temperature. So whenever you walk up a huge,
Claro, lo que está haciendo es que ha pillado lo que sería la zona de la temperatura y mezclarla con la información de altitud, y lo que puede hacer mediante los parámetros es decirle que donde haya montañas elevadas, modificar los valores de la temperatura.
higher altitude on the planet, you would suddenly start transitioning from these brighter values here over to the darker values until it gets really cold. And then, FX picks up on that, and the wind picks up on that, and the color information changes.
Claro, entonces, qué locura. Entonces, claro, dice que las zonas negras ahora en este caso serían las zonas de, esto estaremos viendo a la vista de temperatura, entonces las zonas negras representarían a las zonas más brillantes, que son las zonas en las que hay más elevación de montañas, se mezclarían y el resultado es que las zonas brillantes de montañas tendrían zonas oscuras de temperatura, que serían las temperaturas bajas, y todo esto sería todo esto sería tanto afectado por cómo se colorea, como hemos visto antes la herramienta, y también los vientos y demás historias.
And the object presets that we apply change as well.
Y también los objetos predefinidos que también, o sea, los objetos predefinidos que hay en zonas también se verían modificados por este cambio de altitud y demás y esta mezcla.
So you just
yeah.
systemically change the temperature by just mixing two different textures.
Yes, because these two textures, this one describes elevation, this one describes temperature, and if I mix them together using certain math, in that case it's simply subtracting that texture from that texture. I get exactly what these people in the chat asked for, which is, the height factored into the temperature of the planet.
Claro, dice que con una cuestión matemática, pues haciendo esa mezcla y haciendo subtract, que le pone ahí, sustraer, pues mezclando esas dos informaciones puede hacer lo que la gente está viendo en el chat de cómo afecta la elevación a lo que es el clima del planeta, la temperatura y demás, el dibujado en general. Y bueno, pues aquí lo estamos viendo cómo afecta, ¿no? ¡Qué locura!
Which is cool. So, yeah. Any other questions, or should I?
Sorry, I was watching the demo.
It's mesmerizing, right?
Folks are asking what happened to the mountains on Hurston.
Mountains on Hurston. Oh yeah. So I mean, these painting tools are not the only thing we have changed with V4, and the fact that we are now applying our content very differently to the planets. We had to adjust and align the content that we use on our planets, which means the mountains, the height data, and stuff like that. It had to all be changed in order to work fine with V4, and that's why you might see different mountains, or maybe the elevation changed, or maybe the look changed, or something like that.
Claro, dice que para poder aplicar la tecnología V4, está preguntando la gente qué ha pasado con las montañas de Hearthstone. Entonces, que para poder modificar, o sea, para poder aplicar esta tecnología V4 han tenido que modificar elevación y altitud de las montañas de Hearthstone para poder adecuarse a esta tecnología.
I mean, it was a planet reworked after all. We actually went through all the planets and reworked all of them, and like including the moons, right? I'm also whenever we talk internally of planets, we usually also mean the moons by it.
Yeah. I've had to learn that the hard way, that internally you guys just refer to everything as planets.
Yeah, because it's planets tech, and and we just say planet to everything, even though it's wrong.
When you're painting right now, this is with the height map included. Because I've noticed that
Claro, está comentando el desarrollador que también se refieren a las lunas como planetas porque es la tecnología planetaria. Y dices cuando que ha tenido que aprender eso por las malas, ¿no? Porque muchas veces no solo hablan de tecnología planetaria, sino también de sistema planetario. Cuando para nosotros un sistema planetario es, el sistema Sol, por ejemplo, es un sistema planetario. Y ellos a eso le llaman sistema solar. Y no sistema planetario, sino sistema planetario lo llaman al planeta de sus lunas. Entonces dice que ese tipo de lenguaje se utiliza debido a las herramientas que usan y cómo se llaman, ¿no? Que en realidad la tecnología planetaria V4 debería llamarse tecnología astral V4. No lo sé.
the way it's selecting is drastically different than it was selecting before.
Actually, it's not. It's the
No?
same thing. I'm sorry.
No, it seems to be way more striations now than there were
Oh,
before.
because I whenever I change, so I can increase
You
the
changed
brush
the
radius.
brush radius. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So if I change the brush radius, I can cover huge areas at once,
Yeah.
right? If I want snow to be there everywhere, and then leave these areas as just very barren deserts but still super cold, then I could do that. But if I reduce my brush radius, you can still see the highlight, right? But it's much thinner now. So now I can go in and really detail out these.
Claro, nos está comentando las diferencias que hay otra vez nuevamente entre deducir el radio de la brocha y ver cómo sigue afectando a partes, pero en menor medida, ¿no? Que reduce el radio de acción. Entonces, si tú aumentas el radio de acción de la brocha, pues efectivamente aumentas a más zonas que tienen esas características de humedad y de clima.
Work, because if anything that we do in regards to big changes, if we're not happy with them, then any type of detail we put into them will not work either, right? So as the base has to be established first before we dive into any type of detail and start tweaking that.
Yeah, you always start big, whittle down small. It's like
Claro, dice que el motivo de cuál meten brocha gorda primero es para ver que están contentos primero con lo que quieren hacer y luego meterse en detalles. Hasta que vean que realmente están contentos con lo que quieren conseguir en plan brocha gorda, no especifican lo que quieren hacer.
sculpture, or actually even applies to acting. I did theater for 3 decades, and they'll always tell you start big and let me bring you down, because it's a lot easier to whittle something down than it is to try to build it back up.
Yeah, for sure. Should we do like an experiment, which would be very interesting?
Dice Discolando que es una cosa que también se aplica al teatro, que él ha estado en teatro y demás, y que en plan una cosa que les hacían era empieza bestia y luego ya te vamos moldeando, te vamos rebajando. Que es mucho más fácil moldear lo bruto que en tratar de construir todo desde los detalles y modificar eso, ¿no?
Thing to see.
Yes. As long as it doesn't end with something in somebody's crotch, you're welcome to experiment.
Yeah, I was afraid of that. Let's hope it doesn't happen. But as we did before, let's quickly block out something here, right? So I'm just gonna.
Josh Herman, are you here? No.
Huh?
Okay. Nothing.
Oh, okay.
Long-time viewers will know.
All right. All right, as we did before, I'm just gonna apply a couple different greens here where like temperate regions would be. Maybe like a darker green just to vary it up a little, like this. All right. The opacity isn't up. I see. Okay. So we could do something like this. And then for these areas up here, maybe we would also take something darker and just apply a couple details, just to have something showing, I don't know, maybe exposed rocks or cliffs or areas of whatever. It could be volcanic regions, or here, like.
Que está diciendo de que está metiendo diferentes tonalidades de bosque y luego está metiendo zonas oscuras en lo que es la montaña, como tratando de exponer zonas volcánicas de alguna manera. Y está coloreando en general, haciendo lo que es una demostración rápida, lo que sería colorear la superficie.
Like this. All right. Let's say that's a bit of the planet information that we have, just to for the sake of making the experiment, right? And now imagine that this is basically our planet, and we're quite happy with it, even though this is just blocked information. And it would be interesting to see.
Claro, están haciendo un experimento de lo que sería tener la información de un astro, el lore, por así decirlo, ¿no? Y a partir de ahí, pues, hacer un boceto rápido. Esto sería lo que llaman ellos bloques, ¿no? En plan de a lo tocho, y ver si están contentos con ello, y luego a partir de ahí, pues, darle cera.
See how the entire planet changes, simply based on changes that we do to these two textures, right? I will move this one away so we can kind of look at these. So let's first look at the temperature. What could we do to the temperature? Oh, yeah, of course. Right now, it is quite Earth-like. We have a North Pole, and then it gets kind of...
Claro, dice que van a ver que pueden hacer la temperatura, y ahora mismo sería algo similar a lo que es la Tierra. Tenemos un polo norte.
Hot around the equator, and in between
y
we have the
calor
forests,
en el
right?
Ecuador.
But what if we simply flip the entire thing?
¿Y qué pasa que si simplemente invertimos lo que es la temperatura?
Or I should totally flip it here, actually. So now I have flipped the temperature on the entire planet. We have the poles, which are hot, and the equator, which is cold. So now I can just export that texture.
I'm going to get a letter from Sherry.
All right, and now you can see what happened.
Claro, como los colores estaban bindeados a lo que sería la zona de temperatura y humedad, al cambiar solo la temperatura, vemos cómo cambia todo, ¿no? Al invertirlo, vemos cómo cambia todo lo que es el decorado.
Completely flip the entire information that I have on the planet, and what's really cool is it is not just the color information, it is everything that we have talked about a couple minutes ago. So the ground materials, the object.
Claro, que no sería solo lo que son los colores lo que cambiaría, sino que al invertir la temperatura también cambiaría lo que son los materiales de la tierra, del terreno, y los objetos que hay en el terreno también.
Presets and such, everything has rearranged automatically using the new data. So even if we are, in fact, entirely done with a planet, and we have distributed all these rocks and these plates, and then we decided what ground materials go and where, and painted all of these out, and we did our detail passes, and yeah, well, the biomes are blocked in anyway, right? So even if we have put in all of that stuff already, and we want to change something about the planet, then we can just do it as quickly as I have just shown. Just plug in the node, do the modification that you want to do, re-export that texture, and you're good.
Claro, está diciendo de que si tienen, o sea, a pesar de que tengan todos los detalles ya puestos del planeta, simplemente pueden modificar o variar lo que es el aspecto del planeta haciendo simplemente ese cambio de temperatura. O sea, entonces imaginaros lo que sería, pues, yo lo veo de esta manera, ¿no? Si el día de mañana tenemos un planeta que es selvático y tiene mezcla de desierto y tal, y lo tienen ya bien diseñado, si quieren hacer un planeta que sea selvático entero, simplemente, o sea, rollo Amazonas, que sea Amazonas, pues simplemente tienen que modificar los valores de la humedad. No tendrían que volver a hacer un planeta entero, ¿no? Y quedaría guay, que es la cuestión. Quedaría guay y puede que solo modificando, aplicando otro valor de montañas y demás. O sea, que pueden realmente reutilizar, pueden exportar y reutilizar lo que es un buen diseño que hayan hecho.
for the fun of it, let's change, let's say, maybe something directional instead. Something like this, right? But we will use it as a humidity. So if I view it on the sphere, you can see what happens on the sphere, right? I will simply overwrite the humidity.
Claro, simplemente han pillado lo que es una parte de la textura de ruido, de la textura, ¿no? De que consumimos ahí, y lo que han hecho es cambiar los valores de la humedad y sustituirlo por este cacho.
Of our planet now entirely and export that. Bam.
Y entonces vemos cómo cambia todo debido a esa modificación de la
By
humedad.
one single texture change, I have heavily influenced the look of the entire planet. If I don't like it, if I'm like, oh, it's a little weird that it, my North Pole is around the equator, no problem. I'll just go in and revert the change that I have done, re-export the texture.
Claro, si no está contento con lo que sería el tema de los polos y tal, simplemente modificaría otra vez para que los polos estuvieran bien otra vez y ya está, y ya lo lanzarían.
As I have already said.
So if you had forests in a section, then you moved the temperate area, the forest would move.
Should we try?
Yeah.
Okay, we will have to reload the planet. This is where it can crash. So let's hope that doesn't happen. We will wait for like 10 seconds.
Vale, van a recargar el planeta para ver si funciona. O sea, que puede crashear, pero bueno, que va a mirar a ver. Esperar 10 segundos, dice, y a ver, que no crashee y qué se puede hacer.
Yeah, all good. And we didn't crash. Fantastic. Using a build from a while back. As people know, we're developing the game, but we're also developing the tech at the same time, which can be sometimes quite crashy for us because when the engineers, build new things, new tech, it can be buggy at first, and then we simply have to live with the fact that sometimes our builds might crash. So, let's do a forest, you said, right?
Claro, están poniendo ahora mismo bosque y dice que bueno que también advierte de que claro de que cuando los ingenieros hacen nuevas herramientas que tienen que vivir con el hecho de que efectivamente pues pueden estar algo bugueadas y crashear.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do the forest in... Where should we do the forest? Let's maybe paint down some specific color for it. Like this brown. Just to... Okay. 1 second. Oh no, that's not the forest. That's not the color. This is the color. Okay. And if I come close, you will start seeing the forest appear. And it's dark, but it's no problem because I have the power of the sun. Okay, cool. So right now, there's actually the savanna from Hurston.
So
Dice que tenemos la sabana, ¿no? Que si nos vamos cerca que están encendiendo el sol porque tenían apagado el sol.
So literally, you just went, you picked the color brown.
Yep.
You set a brush size.
Yep.
You selected an area.
Let's do it again.
You selected an area based on temperature and humidity, and then said, "I want this to be forest."
Yep.
And it just planted all these trees.
Claro, está diciendo que simplemente ha escogido el color verde, ha diseñado una zona basada en la humedad y dice, bueno, pues quiero que la humedad y la temperatura, y dice, pues quiero que toda esta zona con esta humedad y esta temperatura sea bosque, y lo ha plantado y a tomar por saco. Buenas, Chihuahua.
Let's do this again. But close up this time so people can actually see what's happening. So I'm basically just applying a white color here, and then I'm swapping over to, let's say, Obsidian Set A from Microtech, and I just changed that.
Dice que lo estamos viendo más de cerca. Simplemente está poniendo el color blanco y está aplicando obsidiana de la data que tienen de Microtech Y bueno, pues que simplemente lo han cambiado. Y que eso es así es como cambian un bioma en la tecnología V4.
Right now, I could go in and really detail this out and give it different shades of I don't want to say gray now, but I have to say gray.
Can you make yellow snow?
Yeah. I think so.
Estás viendo y scrollando si podemos tener nieve amarilla. Y bueno, que ahí va.
I'm gonna get fired.
Que dice que ahora pues puede ir detallando y se va
It was from the
modificando,
chat.
¿no?
Oh. All right, let's do yellow
was-
snow. I mean, it's a lot of yellow
It was
snow.
Nubifire. It was Nubifire's
Yeah,
video.
let's say an elephant walked by and he had digestive problems or something. Yeah, but we can totally do these changes and detail these areas out even more. So if I wanted to enhance this area and let's say do cacti, and I want it on the transition between this savanna land and the dark shrubs, I can totally have cacti in between.
Dice que puede tener, como detallando, puede tener una mezcla entre lo que es la sabana y la nieve, puede tener cactus, ¿no? Que lo está poniendo ahora.
Spawning on the snow, which looks odd, right? But just for demonstration purposes.
No, we've got high desert here, and occasionally it snows in the high desert here. So I've seen snow on cactuses before.
Oh, nice.
We have that in California.
Está diciendo Escolando que tiene desierto en altura y que a veces ha visto nieve y desierto, así que tienen eso en California.
And,
que no es tan extraño, tan loco.
The thing is, now, I think by now people get a bit of a better idea of how fast V4 really is and how much we can do. But we said we wanted to put down some like a forest, and then now we actually put down two things. So we have these dark rocks and our savanna, right? Okay, and now let's zoom out and let's modify this so it occurs in a different area. So I'm going to go back and really change my textures again. Wait, temperature goes here, humidity goes here. And now I'm just updating that texture again.
Dice que ahora está modificando los valores para poder ampliar o modificar de cómo se muestran.
Let's do it again. Now it works. Yeah, this thing needs to pop up in order for it to work. Sometimes it gets stuck. All right, so now you can see that it changed, right?
It just cambian otra vez.
It just jumped a little because we changed the data.
So porque han cambiado los datos, ¿no? De la humedad y el clima.
You can see that this is not matching anymore. And that's exactly the reason why we have to reload the planet, because the object scattering behaves a little differently than simply applying color. So
claro, dice que lo que es la programación de los objetos se aplica un poco diferente al color, y eso es por lo que tienen que volver a recargar el planeta para que se carguen los objetos adecuadamente.
I will have to just reload that planet.
Y que no crashee. A ver si no
and
crashea.
Then we will see the dark rocks in these snowy areas here and the forest around them.
Claro, es cuando volverán a ver, después de haber modificado esa temperatura,
donde verán, it takes like 10 seconds just
to reload a planet.
Donde veremos otra vez las rocas de obsidiana y los árboles, ¿no? La sabana.
Now I can fly back in. And
ahí lo tenemos.
You can totally see we have this is wait a second.
Vale, y con esto nos podemos hacer una idea de cuán rápido trabajan con la tecnología V4 con respecto al V3.
Because we are in an area where the ocean level starts to creep in, and I'll explain what happens precisely. But you can see that we have the dark rock and then the savanna right next to it, right? So this updated properly. So why do we get the coral spawning in here? Like, why does that happen? Like, this is weird, right? I didn't paint this down. I didn't want this to happen originally. But what the objects can basically read out, and what they're also driven by, is what kind of elevation on the planet they are sitting on. And we can basically turn objects on and off based on what elevation level they are on. So the reason why you're starting to see coral in this area is because we are actually below ocean level.
Claro, está diciendo lo que vemos aquí, por qué se muestran estos colores y demás, o sea, estos corales, perdón. Es porque claro, porque dice de que los objetos se pueden anclar a diferentes tipos de altitud y demás para que se muestren. Entonces, la cuestión es que se supone que ahora mismo, según los datos de altura, estaríamos por debajo del nivel del mar, lo que sería este bioma concreto, ¿no? De sabana y todo eso. Entonces, claro, por eso se muestran estos colores, porque estaríamos por debajo del nivel del mar.
Opposed to being at ocean level. The thing is, because this planet is based on Daymar doesn't have an ocean, right? So
Yeah.
that's why we can simply hover above the ground and wonder about why coral appears. But it's actually good that it happened, because then I can explain that if this was, let's say, Microtech, this is how we can control that. For example, on a hill, there should be, or on higher elevation, there should be these pine tree forests that are completely snown over, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then as you move down an elevation towards the frozen ocean that you find on Microtech, we can, for example, say, okay, at ocean level 0 or -1, we want, and that's in meters, right? We want ice.
Claro, y con esto pueden explicar lo que está pasando en Microtest, de por qué en una zona elevada, pues de montaña, por ejemplo, podemos ver pinos todo nevados, y en una zona más baja podemos ver bloques de hielo y demás a nivel del mar y demás, y que pueden modificar o activar que esos objetos se muestren o no se muestren pues para poder dar así esa vida, ¿no? Rápidamente a lo que son los planetas y esa variedad.
We can activate it, but then the shader has to be applied and such, and it might not look great. So yeah, no, just adding it is no problem. I don't think that we can do it in 10 minutes though.
Fair enough.
And make it look good. Yeah.
Takes longer than 10 minutes to make an ocean.
Yeah, but
Claro, dice que por ejemplo, que podrían intentar añadir un océano ahora mismo, pero que también habría que aplicar los shaders y que pues que necesitaríamos más de 10 minutos para hacerlo porque si no quedaría muy cutre.
but generally it can be, if the shading is clear and if it's all good and if it's all set up, then that's very easy, especially if we can reuse, for example, let's say we had.
Un segundito, chicos. Venga ya.
Default Earth-like water ocean setup, then I could simply just turn it on, slap something on, and that's it. But right now, I'm not sure how the ocean shading is set up in this build, because this is a 3.8 build, and that's when the frozen oceans came in. So I don't want to, just for not risking any crashes, because we did changes to the ocean in this build.
Right.
I don't want to try.
Dice que no quiere intentar lo que es el tema del océano porque puede crashear, porque parece ser que el océano es una cosa de la 3.8 y demás, y se hicieron cambios, y que no quiere hacerlo ahora mismo para que no crashee el programa.
But yeah, let's go over to this area here. Can reuse the same assets. If you have questions, shoot. It's no problem. Let's go back here. Oh, this is... let's take for example, just for the sake of doing it again.
You ask for questions and right off the bat, why so many rocks?
No, not that question, please.
You're the one who asked. You're the one who says,
Yeah, that's
you
fine.
opened it up. Why so many rocks, Patrick? Why do you? What do you have for
Okay.
rocks? Did you have a pet rock when you were younger?
I love rocks. the more the better. No. So the rock situation, yeah. In V3, one of our big problems was that we couldn't detail out environments as nicely as we could. And the more changes we added, the more and more we progressed with the tech, the more budget we could free up, and the tech changed, so we were able to simply scatter more stuff than before. That's why people saw such an increase of detail in the last 2 years when it comes to planets in general. So that's when also the rock density on the planets started increasing, right? And then at some point it simply became a problem because it started affecting traversal.
Mm-hmm.
For example, something like Daymar is fine, you have some rocks here and there, but sometimes it's very hard to predict where and how much of these rocks will spawn, since it's to some degree, it happens procedurally, right? But there's still some things that we need to figure out. It's a discussion point. It's something that we will definitely have meetings about, and figure out how we can tackle the problem. Because this it is of course a problem for design, but then art direction might want dense areas and stuff like that. So there's a conflict there. It's simply something that we will need to figure out as all the other stuff.
Claro, está diciendo de que con el tema de las rocas, de que, bueno, han dicho la gente por el chat de que hay muchas rocas, ya sabemos que hay gente que hace rallies y demás, y bueno, vemos que hay un montón de rocas, demasiadas, ¿no? Que a veces que la densidad dice que se convierte en un problema. Y que efectivamente, pues como se generan de forma procedural, es algo que tienen que descubrir cómo van a solucionar, y que están haciendo reuniones al respecto para ver cómo van a enfrentarse al problema de la alta densidad de rocas en algunos sitios y demás.
That we have talked about over the last years and try to find solutions. Yeah. And we definitely hear the people. We read what everyone is we read what everyone is posting on Reddit and Spectrum and stuff like that. So we totally hear you guys, and we will definitely find some solution for it, but it's too early to tell, but we are thinking about it. That for sure.
Dice que han visto en Reddit algunas soluciones y tal, pero que es muy difícil para comentar. O sea, es muy difícil, muy pronto para comentar todavía. Y que cuando están listos, pues nos comentarán más acerca de las soluciones que van encontrando.
A rock? You mean?
I thought the whole texture of the planet was very dark. It was almost black.
Oh yeah, I just painted it.
Yeah,
painted it black. Yeah.
You were talking. I didn't want to interrupt you and ask you what it was.
Yeah, no problem. So I basically just did the same thing as we did with the snow. I painted some darker values down on the planet, swapped to my object presets, applied some darker plates to it, and here we go, like dark spots on the planet. Could be anything really. Petrified roots, let's say. Here we go.
Claro, dice que le puede, que por qué va a ir en rocas negras y demás, y dice que puede aplicar el color a lo que son los objetos y demás, puede como oscurecerlos. Y aquí vemos como, por ejemplo, ha hecho raíces petrificadas, que es lo que ha seleccionado. Dice, simplemente lo selecciona y selecciona el color y ya mismo se mezcla.
Again, I'm not only changing this spot right here, right? So we are changing.
Claro, que no está cambiando solo esa zona, sino está cambiando todo lo que hay alrededor. Todo lo que coincide con esos datos.
So you're never just editing one area that you're looking at. That's something that people constantly have to remind themselves of.
Do you, coming at this from like a Photoshop standpoint, do you have the ability to mask off a section? Like if you want to change everything on a planet except for one specific area, like I do not want to change this area?
In terms of painting or texture updates?
Painting.
Painting.
I guess. For what we've been seeing here, do you have the ability to mask off?
So the painting tool will pick up on whatever the data is saying, right? If you let's say just because like what we are viewing right now, let's say this area right here, I want to paint it, but I don't want this area to be affected on the left here,
Mm-hmm.
then in the tool right now, there's no option to simply mask that area and only paint that area because it is sharing the same data, right? So it has to be the same because it's the same climate zone here. The temperature and humidity rise on the left as it is on the right. So it has to be the same color and biome and objects and ground textures and stuff like that. But I can simply go in, find that spot on my texture here, and basically assign new values to this region than I have, let's say, on this region, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I can paint them uniquely and individually from one another.
Claro, está diciendo le están preguntando si podría pintar una zona en exclusividad sin que afectara al resto de cosas. Dice que bueno, que como está ligado a ciertos valores que efectivamente se compartiría, lo que sí que puede hacer es darle determinados valores a esta área en concreto para que difieran de lo que es otras zonas y así de esa manera solo se pintaría esa zona.
Gotcha. I was asking because I was wondering if it's possible to write your name on the planet. Like if you had a mask tool, you just mask out Patrick. But
let's say.
How would you write? Remember when I asked?
Me están preguntando si puede escribir su nombre en el planeta, ¿no? Para que no afecte a lo demás. A ver si es posible que pueda escribir Patrick en el planeta. Y ya le están tocando está ahí topicado ya. A ver.
Artists sign their work.
Oh wow, yeah.
I mean, is there a way for you to literally sign?
Jared,
That's not what I said.
Eso no es lo que ha dicho. Joder, Jared. Jared and Pat.
All right. Okay. This is a bit crazy, but as I said, nothing prevents us from doing anything.
Dice que es un poco locura, pero nada los previene
de... and swap our temperature texture with that.
These changes will go to Daymar Live, by the way.
LOL.
There we go.
There we go. The Jared biome.
El bioma Jared.
But you ended up in the desert region, Jared. I'm sorry. Me too. Because it's too hot, you know. It's too hot.
Yeah, that's the reason.
Yep. See, now we're starting to get the idea. But we can also just flip it as we did before and have the snow be in our name.
Claro, estar en un desierto pueden ponerlo frío, pero bueno, que han hecho una solución en plan bestia. Pero que si lo hacen de forma más concreta, pues evidentemente pueden definirlo más, ¿no?
Because I gave our names this gradient bevel here around the edge as an effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now the temperate forests and all the other regions are basically all focusing around our names because it's going from cold to warm in a much...
Claro, está diciendo de que ahora lo que son el bosque y demás, todo lo que habían hecho antes va bindeado a lo que serían los bordes de las letras, va linkado a lo que sería el borde de las letras, porque está cambiando de la temperatura fría a la cálida.
I'll make you a deal, Patrick.
Yep, all good.
I'll give you $5 American.
Paint yellow snow.
No. If you take this image and drop it in a review folder for Ian.
How much? $5?
Dice que le da pasta discolando, le ofrece pasta si pone esto en el fichero de revisión de Ian, de su superior, supongo, que le da pasta si le cuela el planeta con el nombre y demás.
Hey, well, at your next sprint check-in, just like, this is what I worked on, Ian.
Okay, let's talk about that off stream, should we?
Sure.
Maybe add a 0. All right. Yeah. I think we have time for like a last question or something, or any closing words.
Actually, we're pretty much done.
Awesome.
Great. We are done. You can go ahead and shut down the screen share if you want. Patrick, thank you so much for taking the time here on your Friday at the end of your week to join us here for our Game Dev Painting Planets. If you haven't seen the ISC segment from last week, check that out. It was about how it was part 2 of our quarter-long moon series about the work that Patrick and Pascal have been doing to create 3 moons with only
Está hablando que si queréis que le echéis un vistazo al Inside Star Citizen de la semana pasada, que nos habla cómo Patrick y Pascal hacen las lunas y demás.
speed.
4 weeks. 4 weeks.
4
3 moons.
weeks.
En
4
4
weeks,
semanas
3
hicieron las lunas de
moons. That's
Micro.
pretty good. Oh, and for people like, what about the concept? Like the concept was done before. It's from
Yeah.
concept to completion. It didn't include the concept. It was from concept to completion.
Exactly.
I said it like
We
a half dozen times.
we
but
have seen that on Reddit as well.
I was like,
And
how many times do I have to say it? But anyway, it happens.
we only started January when
Yeah.
we came back from holidays. That's when we started on the moons from on our end. But yeah, there was the concepting done before, as you said.
And you've made your go no go, and now it's in the hands of system designers and VFX and everything to put on the finishing touches. And,
Yeah, QA is checking it out, seeing if there's any bugs, anything that we might change.
Me dice que hicieron la reunión de To Go No Go y que ahora mismo pues está en manos de los diseñadores y del equipo de Q&A para mirar si hay bugs y demás.
Maybe
Lo
art
que se
direction
refiere a
is
las
gonna
lunas,
have
¿no?
some
A las
feedback,
lunas de
but
Micro.
not much. And then hopefully, people will get it and
Alpha 3
play
now.
around with it and have fun. Yeah, experiencing the new moons.
And with all the new actor status stuff, they'll have to contend with the temperature variation, the temperature variations. So
I can already spoil that much. The moons are very cold. They are very cold.
I don't think that was much of a spoiler, Patrick. All right, guys, thank you so much. If for any reason you're at PAX East, we got Tyler and Molly are out there. Now they've got some giveaways. If you can track them down on the show floor, be sure you spot them. 382 went live. If you haven't checked that out, be sure you check that out. The Carrick's currently available for all. For if you're an Imperator subscriber, for instance, you've got access to the Carrick for the next 7 days at no additional fee as a perk of the Imperator test flight program. So Imperator subscribers can look forward to that. That's active right now until March 8th. So I'm Jared. That's Patrick. That was JJ over there. Pushing the buttons. We'll see you next week, everybody. Take care.
See you, bye.
Bueno, pues nos han comentado ya al final de que evidentemente que la 3.8.2 que ya están live, que las lunas son bastante frías y han comentado algo sobre el Actor System, de cómo se comporta y demás con el clima. Supongo que para eso sacarán un Evocati primero, pero ojalá esté ya para la 3.9 y podamos ver esos efectos climáticos, porque yo creo que va a cambiar la experiencia del juego bastante, ¿no? Con ganas de hacer un eventillo por ahí. Y nada, chavales, hoy es el último viernes del mes, así que toca sortear ese paquete de juego. Voy a parar esto un momento y hacer el sorteo aparte.